Now that the 3 hemlocks have been cut down and cleaned up, the next step is going to be taking the sections of trunk and milling them into lumber. And this just seems so cool to me. I've never done this before, so I'm pretty excited. Here's how it's going to work. My neighbor has a sawmill that we're going to be using, and you basically take the log and you hoist it up onto the sawmill, and then you might need to level it a little bit and then secure it into place. And then from there, the top section of the sawmill has a big band in it that's got a bunch of sharp teeth on it and hooked up to a motor. So you start that thing up and you get the teeth going really fast, and then you pass the top section of the sawmill over the log, and that makes the cut. So then from there, you just keep rotating the log and making another cut until you've basically got a rectangular log that's in the shape of the board you want, and then you just cut the boards one at a time like slices. Let's make some lumber.
One of the people I've thought about the most as I've worked out here is my grandfather. He passed in 2016, and it seems weird to say this, but I actually feel closer to him now than when he was alive. And I think it's because I know he and I would have really enjoyed working on these projects. And I didn't really appreciate that while he was alive. By the time I figured that out, and by the time I think we had some respect for each other, he was already too old to be able to be out there doing that kind of work. Maybe I feel closer to him because his spirit is out there with me in some way. And I think if we had had the chance to work on this together, that we would have found even more love and respect for each other.
After milling all those hemlocks, I have a ton of lumber, which is great because what I don't have hardly any of is places to set stuff. A while back, I built that canvas storage shed behind me, and that's been helpful, but I've been storing things in there just basically by piling them up in the center, which is not a very efficient way to do it, right? So I need some shelves, and now I've got the lumber to do it. Let's get to it. The shelf took about 2 hours to build, and now I have a place to put stuff at like waist height, which is pretty great. But the other thing that feels so amazing to me is that, well, like take it as an example, this thing. I mean, this is an amazing device, but I have no idea where any of the parts came from or who the people were that built it or anything. But with that shelf, I saw the tree come down. I helped to cut it up. I wrestled with it in the sawmill. I drove the screws into it, turn it into a shelf. It's a totally different experience. It's kind of like from cradle to grave, I know everything about that. And I also had like a bodily experience with every single aspect of it. So I'm not saying that I want to not own stuff like this. This is amazing. But I also like having stuff that I have that direct bodily connection with. Besides the screws, everything in that shelf came from 50 feet over there, and I touched every single aspect of it. So cool. With the completion of the lumber project, I've now got all the resources I need to begin building a more permanent shelter. I'm really excited about this phase. I've considered quite a few different kinds of shelter, and in the next video, I'll talk about those, and I'll start building the one that I chose.